Any other discussion? All in favor say aye, or raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed?
Yes.
You oppose them? Complete?
Yep.
Any abstentions? Okay, the minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is the chairperson's report. So I wanted to start by welcoming Natalie Dyroff. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, from 156. She's actually the daughter
happy today.
of the new owner, Sandra, from 156. And Natalie herself lives in the Seaside area.
Ridiculous.
And her mom is going to be using her unit, I believe, when she travels to Seaside. So welcome, Natalie.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
So a few different announcements. First, the newly renovated Bob Chisholm Center has been reserved for our hybrid annual owners meeting.
Are you
on
hearing
Sunday,
this?
November 13th at 10 a.m.
You want to see her? She's smiling.
To remind everyone.
She's all happy.
So owners will be able
She's
to
got somebody new on here that she's trying to impress.
If they're not able to
Clearly.
attend in person, and we're working on some of the logistics, and more information will be forthcoming about that. We're in the process of closing out the fiscal year, the 2021-22 fiscal year. We're on a September 1st to August 31st cycle. And I'm happy to report that Bluestone has transferred the full $80,000 that we have allotted for reserve funding into the reserve account already. So that's really good news. I did want to note that there are a number of owners in arrears on dues and assessments, and we do have a collections resolution and procedures in place, but we do need to make every effort for the owners to pay on time in order to run the tides. And that is being handled, but it's just a reminder to everyone on the call.
There's a reason.
Also wanted to let folks know that this is good news for the HOA. We've just reached a legal settlement in a foreclosure litigation with about $32,000 coming to the HOA. As I said, this is excellent news. I can't share more information and details on it because of the confidentiality associated with it. But again, this is great news for the HOA. We're also expecting some tax refunds for both entities, and we're waiting for those checks from the IRS. Our CPA is going back a few years before she became our CPA to analyze some tax loss information that was on the prior tax returns and make sure we're getting all of the eligible refunds for both entities. The Tides HOA and RO had claims for common element damage that you may be aware of and lost revenue that are still being reviewed by an insurance adjuster due to the water damage from Unit 156. And so after consultation with Bluestone and our HOA attorney, funds were withheld from the closing of that sale to cover these claims, but the claims are still in process. Unit 172, is renting well, and I did send all the owners the statement. But
she's psycho today. She's smiling. It's scary. I think it was better to see her when she would look like a witch. Now she just looks like a smiling witch.
For that
yes,
unit.
I'm recording this.
And as a reminder, 50% of that gross revenue goes to the HOA. So that's all 51 owners who are in the HOA. 15% goes to the RO as the take for the RO to cover its expenses, and 35% to Vacasa. I know there seems like there's been some misinformation out there and misunderstandings about how that works, but the HOA is the owner of that unit, and just like any other owner of a unit that's in the rental pool, it does get the 50% of the gross revenue. A few other items about insurance. We have some insurance audits that are happening. So on the RO side, there was I worked with our financial folks and with our insurance agent to complete the 2019-2020 insurance audit that was not done by prior management, and then I'm working on the 2020-21 audit, and thank you so much, Billy, for helping with getting Vacasa's data on that. We negotiated a delay of an imposition of a $13,000 penalty for not filing, but once we file, the good news is not only will we not have to pay the penalty for the second year, but we should get back a refund of about $13,000 for the prior years, and this would be refunded to the RO. So that's really good news. The HOA on the HOA side, our carrier is doing a property analysis, and then they're working with Billy. There's a new way of doing this. They're having Billy take pictures of the property on site, and then those will be uploaded to the carrier as they reanalyze the property.
Yeah. I want to see those
pictures. One of the things I wanted to mention, I think that the board should be aware of, is as part of the closing out of the fiscal year, one of the things that we've been dealing with is Alsco, who's our linen services provider, hasn't been sending regular invoices for many months. And the same thing happened last year. And I mean, we really read the Riot Act last year about this because we need to be getting regular invoices and paying regularly so we can monitor this closely and know exactly where we stand. And I'm frankly surprised as part of their business model that they allow their customers to go for months without paying. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that on the August operating reports and then the final fiscal year operating reports that the board will get, you will see large expenses on that GL code line because we're going back many months to pay all of these linen rental expenses to Alsco. And I know, I mean, both Billy and Darcy have been requesting consistent billing from them and also providing feedback about the quality of the linens. So we're working on that. But again, wanted to let the board know because that's an expense that you may not have seen on some of the recent months' financial reports. Shifting gears, I wanted to thank Dan Hardebeck from 160 for updating the content of our unit binders. These are the binders that are in all the rental units, and he's added all sorts of wonderful information about the history of the tides with pictures and different resources nearby, things to do, restaurants and whatnot. And so he's provided that data to Billy. Billy's working on assembling those binders and working with some other Vacasa staff on adding their own artistic touches, and these will get into the rooms shortly. But it's a really nice touch, I think, for our renters to see these binders with updated information when they check into their units at the tides. On the IT side, I wanted to let folks know I renewed the domain name for our Tides by the Sea domain for 10 years. It had expired, and so I renewed that. And then, as I think I mentioned to the board before, but I wanted to make sure the others on the call heard this. Just a second, I'm admitting a few people. Is that when I became the board chair, we were paying $750 a month for our website hosting. And so in two different steps, I've actually negotiated the $750 a month down to $114 for 3 years. So that's huge savings for us to reduce that expense on our books.
And I just want to pat myself on the back.
Another thing.
I thought you just said she renewed it for 10 years.
But the Wi-Fi, I know
now
this
we're
has been
talking
a big
about 3
discussion
years.
about among different people, and I know there have been some challenges with the cottages lately with Wi-Fi. But a few updates on that. It's sort of a random discovery when we were looking through some of the final invoices for the year. There's an additional Spectrum account that was created, and when I called Spectrum about it, what I found out is that when we had ordered an increase in bandwidth back in April of 2021, so I mean this is we're getting close to a year and a half ago, then in fact they didn't increase the bandwidth at that time, but they created a new account, and we're trying to get clarity about why we have these two accounts. And the main account that has the TVs and internet on it only has 100 megabytes per second in bandwidth. So that could be one of the explanations of why the cottages are having trouble with bandwidth. I've been kind of borderline harassing our account representative from Spectrum who's not getting back to me. And so I have plans for next steps in dealing with that. But I want to just let folks know that's sort of one other piece of the puzzle in the Wi-Fi about why things aren't working as they should be. I'm frankly shocked that because Spectrum was supposed to have done this work so long ago that this has happened. But in addition, we're still evaluating some of the other details about the setup in the cottages before we start making changes there. I'll let Billy speak to the rest of it, but they've been testing speeds and whatnot. I think the big area that there have been problems are in the southernmost portion of the cottages. it seems, I mean, at least when I was down there, I had good Wi-Fi in different areas, but I know this is a work in progress. Wanted to give an update on the picnic tables. I'm excited that we have 7 new all-weather picnic tables that have been assembled.
All-weather.
Thank you, Billy and Jeremy, for making that happen.
Oh, thank you,
They
Billy
can be
Jeremy.
folded and stored for the winter, which is really nice. They are lightweight enough for the landscapers and for guests and owners to move around, so people can have gatherings in different parts of the property.
Oh, because they didn't do that before with the wooden ones.
Most of them were rotted, and
liar.
I mean, one of the benches actually broke recently with people on it, so luckily nobody was hurt. But that is, you know, a potential liability issue.
Liar.
So new tables. And big thank you to Lisa Morley, 150, for removing most of the old tables.
Most?
I also wanted to let folks know, I think there was a question about the dumpster, and so Billy and Vacasa have offered to pay for half the dumpster because it's mainly used for disposing of old junk and garbage that were in some of the common areas and the maintenance areas of the tides. So, and there's still more junk that they're removing, but wanted to let the board know that. A few other things. I saw even when I was just down there a couple weeks ago.
Lies.
So Jeremy is actively working on the sprinkler system. He'd gone through each section of it and was adjusting all the heads and making sure they're spraying properly.
I just can't even.
So that's really helpful. And he replaced the light by the flagpole that shines up onto the big American flag.
He changed the light bulb. Or told Jeremy to change the light bulb.
And then he also adjusted the oceanfront spotlights that go onto the beach at night, so that they're going on as it starts to get dark.
Lies.
Turn off, I think, around 12:30 a.m. I don't have anything else. Does the board have any questions for me? All right. Well, we will move into the Vacasa report. Billy, should I make you or Lisa the co-host?
Oh, my God. We go through this every month. Why don't you ask each other in advance?
Okay, you should have it.
Can everybody see it?
Oh, great. We're going to have the graft. Yeah, well, there's the graph. 2 goddamn columns.
As you can see,
2.
the yellow marker being in the
fucking morons.
Year. We've already matched, or getting close to matching what we did all of last fiscal year. Granted, our fiscal year didn't start till July of 2021.
Yeah.
Essentially.
But
we're off to an amazing start. Rooms are getting booked, and you know, as we know,
the fiscal year is almost over at the end of this month.
A down season, a traditional shoulder season where we start to see reservations drop off. We'll start to see last minute bookings for weekends, but the days of booking your weeks up are probably going to be gone once we hit around October.
How pathetic.
You may get a few here and there, but
how pathetic.
It'll just be weekend rentals from here on out. Once we
so what good are you, Vacasa? What do we need you for?
Months, and then it'll pick
what do we need them for?
Everybody's weeks
2 months a year? 2 months a year we're paying for them.
Billy, if you don't mind my interrupting, I'm curious about the date ranges on the bottom. Is that Vacasa's fiscal year?
That's correct. Well, I think, Lisa, this is just the standard fiscal that we put for...
Yeah, that's the standard reporting dates.
Right, that's what I thought.
So just because you started at the end of June of 2021, so are you basically saying that the blue part is actually just 11 months, or 10 and a half months of data?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Oh, wow.
Right here is just 2.5, 3 months worth of data plus future reservations that have paid. Yeah, we're at
They're the same, absolute same date ranges.
888.
Same date ranges. 5/1 to 4/30.
I'm sure.
May 1st of 2021 to April 30th, 2022. May 1st from 2022, April 30th to 2023.
Including the pre-book that was before Vacasa took over?
I don't know. Was that?
No, of course, I don't know.
Included in that.
Yeah, it is.
Actually,
Yes,
yeah, that's
it
a
is.
good question.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not 100% sure. I actually think it might be.
Yeah, it is.
Because they were on the schedule.
Yes, it is.
But I'm not 100% sure. We can find out.
Yeah, this is not Picasso money. This is pre-booked.
Yeah.
Before they took
Thank
over.
you.
It was already on the books. Good job, Judy, as usual.
Okay,
Hold her feet to the fire.
As we all know, that this is something that we're waiting on. We need to get more.
We're waiting. We can't water. We can't do anything. We gotta wait for
regarding that.
landscapers.
We're just here to do what you need us to do. Just let me know which direction
We're
I need
just
to go.
here
But we've had
to do what
I
you
did
need us
present
to
that
do.
one from Greensmith, but if we need some additional ones, we can get those as well. So, irrigation, like she alluded to, they have been repaired. It is up and running. Timers are scheduled to irrigate at 0400, and play structure gets watered down pretty much nightly as required by the manufacturer with the sprinkler, but we'll also put a hose on it just to make sure that it's getting done monthly.
No shit.
Wi-Fi issues.
And why are you just now pointing that out? Why weren't you doing it all
I went around as you all got
while
emails,
the sprinklers were broken?
Regarding my assessment with Greg and which units or buildings should be using what network. We're still having
guess what?
A significant amount of issues
We're
with
Wi-Fi is still not fixed. Fire department inspection still not done.
I've
been hearing
with
this
the owner of
every
121 all
Every
morning
month.
long. He had to do a Zoom meeting sitting here on the couch in the lobby because he couldn't grab the west connection very well, and he was too far away from to grab the net. And he had a Zoom meeting in the morning, and he was super upset about it. But I just told him to sit down in the lobby and do what he needs to do, and we'll try to figure it out from there.
We'll try and figure it out from
That's
there.
really just regarding the access points. So
This
from
is
what
so
I can
pathetic.
tell, the speed at the ocean front is where it's supposed to be. I think me and Hung were on the same page with that. But and the speed throughout the area is good if you can grab it. Really, it's just the accessibility at this point and moving the access points to where they're easy to connect to, and you get a better stronger signal, especially towards the end where Judy's at and 121's at.
What is it?
It's I don't know. You guys are right in between two access points, so you get some terrible speeds. So, any questions about the Wi-Fi?
Does it do any good to ask?
All right, moving
Nothing
on
changes.
to
Questions I do have, sorry, Billy. So where are we at with rectifying the slow speeds?
I don't think we have an issue with the slow speeds. We just have an issue with access points at this point. We do have the speed. We verified that the speed at the oceanfront is fast.
Okay, Billy, then
speed,
where are we at with
over in the cottages,
rectifying
if you can grab
the
them,
access
once you're in the middle or
problem?
closer to an access point, you can get the speeds that you want.
Moron.
You can't, because of where they radiate, unless you're next to the access point, you don't really get a good signal. And so I think what we wanted to do was the next step was to add some access points towards the end, maybe in the middle column that radiate outwards to the other cottages.
Why is everything so complicated for these
and
people?
I think we were talking about maybe doing the center cottages and have them on the outside of them, radiating towards the other ones.
Exactly.
So that it has full connectivity through the length of all
Exactly.
Thank you.
And with that.
And I guess to add to that, Judy, I mean, there's still this question about the bandwidth. It seems like there are just a lot of variables at play with this. I mean, I want to get the bandwidth increased to 600 ASAP, and Spectrum is just very difficult to work with.
Rachel, someone's been dropped from the meeting and then they're trying to get back in. Can you see if there's someone trying to get back in?
That was me.
Okay.
Thank you. We had just a power glitch at our house and everything just disconnected. I'm sorry.
Is this Kim again?
Oh yeah, of course it is.
All right, so
The queen of I'm sorry.
He was here just a few days ago for an emergency. We did a quick check-in. He was really happy with the progress that we've made across the property. And I brought Inland Electric in this last week to start finalizing some of the stuff that the fire department wanted us to do regarding the electrical and covering some of them. And as you can see in this picture, this is the kind of the rat's nest that's in the walkway underneath the beachfront, or not beachfront, but beach drive building, the manager building. And we also, this kind of tied into what we also wanted to do was an electrical inspection. His suggestion before he assisted in covering these items as required by the fire department was to do the inspection before he puts covers on, obviously, because there's no sense in ripping down covers if we're going to do an inspection.
Ripping down. That's not how you install covers, Billy. You install them to cover and be able to be easily removed and put back after work is done. That's what covers are, Billy.
And ripping out everything that's not being used so he can really focus on covering what's needed to be covered, therefore reducing the cost.
Well, just cost.
So
he'll cost more.
On that. That's
more to come.
More of a discussion that we're going to need to talk about. Getting the inspection performed, and I figure we should just do it one building at a time. A lot of the issues from the fire department,
wires,
beach drive manager building. So I would suggest
you can come look at the picture if you'd like.
Inspection done, cleaning up the rat's nest and removing unused wires, and then having them come back in and cover them as needed. Any questions about any of that?
Yeah, when you say inspection, are you talking inspection from electrical or from fire?
It would be an electrical inspection.
Okay.
Yeah. And that would just be to assess what needs to be covered, what are we using, what needs to be ripped out, and plumbing of new conduit, because a lot of the stuff that you can see in some of these, and I think you've all been to the property enough to where you can see they're cracked, broken, and need repair.
And you guys have been there for over a year.
Decking, like I provided an updated quote from Vista Homes regarding the repair of and joist hangering and revamping the oceanfront decking to make it to code. Me and Jeremy have been in the process of repairing some of the rotted boards.
Me and Jeremy, not Jeremy and I.
Some of these pictures that I provided.
Me and
some
Jeremy.
Of them, they're just beyond the scope of what me and Jeremy can do.
Me and Jeremy.
And in this picture, you see the hanger that's supposed to hold that beam over by the Pepsi machine is just rotted off.
I know.
And really, it's just got that pillar underneath that 4x4 holding it up. This is kind of the MO across the whole ocean front.
And they've been there for over a year, Billy. You've been there for over a year.
Hangers that hold the support beams. So I get something you folks are going to need to discuss. Same with the deck painting. I guess in an ideal world, we would come up with a decision to start the decking project, and then that would go through this winter and fall and winter, and painting in spring, and you could put that decking to bed for the next 20-30 years.
Bullshit.
Here's another picture of the one that I think everyone was pretty sore
Oh my
about, as well as
God.
I am. You can see that the kickboard right there at the top of that. That is actually a structural beam that's holding up that whole second tier right there. Me and Jeremy we wanted to rip it out, but it's actually holding up that whole.
I'm surprised they didn't rip it out.
Turnaround on that step word. So there's nothing we can do about that. It's beyond the scope of what we can do. Chimney repair. We have a couple of those quotes out to you folks. So that's more or less what you folks need to make a decision on. Oceanfront West lighting, Inland Electric. This is the stuff that shoots out towards the dunes. The one on the north end does work, and Jeremy did fix the timers, and we confirmed that is in working service. It was the one on the south end that has corroded, and that's what Mackenzie had reported when he was still here, and we confirmed it when Inland came out and took a look at it. He was supposed to get me a quote for the lighting on that, and that should be here over the next few days.
Yeah, always.
So we'd have one both on the north and south walkways down to the beach. On-site parking and monitoring. Again, we do have parking permits that we're passing out. We also now have finish line towing on board to move unwanted vehicles from our parking lot. So where we used to use seaside towing, where they were completely unreliable and
Oh, Lord, everybody's unreliable.
Now we have finish line towing on board to assist in that if needed.
What was so unreliable? What's your data
Picnic
points?
Tables, Rachel talked about that.
How many people have you had to have towed?
We're still in the beginning stages of getting them installed. Over this past week, we have installed 8 new e-locks on rental pool units.
Boy, it takes a long time to install locks, doesn't it?
Have those updated. I just sent out 6 emails to some folks.
How long ago, how many months ago did they buy those?
Code. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to email me
and they've gotten
back
8 installed now.
We can talk about it.
8.
Quick question I have regarding the durability with salt air and being on the ocean and exposed to weather.
Yep.
These are pretty durable and can handle, don't rust.
Yeah, we've been using them for years out here, and if they do become an issue, we'll just replace them with a new one at no charge. But they've been pretty durable so far, up and down the coast that we've been using them, from Manzanita all the way to Ocean Park, Washington, and they work great.
It also looks like there's a key entry to them. Is that correct?
There is a key for if it malfunctions or if it has an issue with, for whatever reason. We do hold the key for it, and we store it here in the manager unit or in the manager's office.
So if anybody has access to that key of the management?
Only myself and Amber as needed, the lead housekeeper.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And I think that's all I have. Any questions?
So only Vacasa has master key to the tides. Nobody at the tides has master key to the tides.
Thank you so much, Billy. I really appreciate that. So the next item on our list, and Billy's already touched on some of these, is the reserve study, maintenance projects as a whole, and looking at the budgeting for those and the prioritization. So as we kind of discussed at prior meetings recently, the Reserve Study Task Force has not met in some time, and in addition, we've had a number of items that have come up. The board has been briefed, has had estimates for some of these things.
Hasn't briefed.
The board is the final decision maker.
The board has not been briefed. These are what these meetings are. You don't meet with the board in between.
Some of these items that need to be handled. Keith Smith sent around a project and a prioritization document, and I sent back some edits. I hope you got those, Keith, with the numbers corrected and whatnot. I'm going to let Keith start about this. Billy has already introduced some of these topics for this meeting, and then like to have a discussion with the goal being I would like the board today to finalize which items we're doing when we're at the end of or we're nearing the end of the high season. We still have weather on our side a little bit for some time, but we need to really plan some of these things because there's a sense of urgency from both safety and overall structural impact to the tides property. So Keith, why don't you take it away, and then we'll have this discussion with the goals of making decisions.
Well, I'll let Billy's 3 or 4 pass because he's discussed them. The list continues with oceanfront plumbing. We had a break in the plumbing down there, which was corrected. However, once the plumber got down there, he was finding severe degradation on the plumbing under the building. So that one has now been added to our list. We're getting an estimate on what it would take to replace the plumbing under the building with new. And there are other issues than just breaks. If it's old, there could be lead in the joints there. So we want a full inspection to find out whether or what needs to be repaired, probably the whole thing, and that will be we'll have an estimate fairly shortly on that. 2 other inspections that were 1 and 2 essentially on the reserve study were an electrical inspection. Now we've had a fire inspection, but that really only shows what's visible on the outside. What we're looking at here is everything that is the responsibility, common element responsibility of the HOA. So essentially it's what happens between the power box in.
I think we also need to know what's the owner's responsibility
each of
and
the
what's
condos
past the HOA, because
switchboard.
and what do we need to do? That should be something that the owners should be made aware of.
The fuse board in the.
Because certainly nobody's ever said anything to us, and we found problems with ours.
Units. That's our bailiwick. So we want someone under and over to look at what's the invisible power cord arrangement under those. So we're looking at an electrical inspection there.
Student debt relief.
Having seen what is going on under the beachfront building, we're looking at a plumbing inspection.
I wonder if this will help Buffy
to see if what's under the other buildings is up to code and in
and
good working
Tasha.
condition. So those really are
Tanya.
the things that we don't know about both of those issues. So both of those are on the list. As far as money is concerned, we will have to wait for the inspections on the plumbing and the electrical to find out what, if anything, we have to pay to get that fixed. We did very well on the asbestos where we had no fixes to make, but I have serious doubts that we're not going to be that lucky with the electrical and plumbing. So we will proceed with those and then look at what the bill might be to correct those when we get those inspection results. Thank you for putting in the 80,000 for this last year. The balance in the fund is now 131,367, and that's a much more healthy buffer to do these things. It looks as though we will have, after the oceanfront deck stairs and the chimneys, we'll have about 79,500 to start next year, and then there will be monthly contributions to the fund right throughout that this coming fiscal year. So depending on how much we are going to have to pay for the electrical inspection and plumbing inspection repairs, it can range from 0 to who knows what. But those are fundamental resources that have the maximum potential for really serious problems, shutdowns, and even fires if it's not done right. We're looking at code violations as well as degradation of both the wiring and the covering, if covering is there, and any other things that can be found. So we're feeling a lot more comfortable about it with the influx of the money, and we will get going ASAP on that, as far as I'm concerned anyway.
Keith, this is
Yes.
Kim. I have a quick question, because maybe I'm not fully understanding the electrical inspection. So you want the inspection to go to each individual condo, correct? And check their fuse boxes? I mean,
No, the fuse boxes are not a
No
common
shit.
element. It's from the power in to the fuse box. So we own that. We do not own from the fuse box out.
Okay.
So it's not an intrusion into any of
Okay.
the
Well,
units.
I'm not worried about the intrusion. So does that mean there'd be walls being opened up in the common area to check the wire?
Probably not. Probably
No,
just,
they're already accessible right now, and that's why we wanted to,
Okay.
potentially
Thank you for
start
the
doing some of this.
clarification. I mean, thank you for the clarification. I was, I've been through a remodel in my 110-year-old house, so I just we're opening up I was envisioning
Well, if we were,
walls.
well,
being
so
opened.
what?
No.
That's what it
Thank you for the
requires. What's the big
clarification.
deal?
much more comfortable now.
Sheetrock doesn't cost that much,
The-
even by today's
from
standards.
the fuse box out was done for the entire facility in 2016. So
Okay.
we're reasonably confident that what's going on from there is probably in better shape. So, and that's each owner's responsibility at this point.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Keith, for bringing me some calmness.
Whatever.
Okay, any other questions on that? We will be, once we get the information from the electrical and plumbing, we'll reconstitute and look at that. We're fairly comfortable for the next couple of years. I want to use the next couple of years to build the reserve. There are a couple of things in there that have some decent costs, but next year has got next to nothing on it, so we can use it from monies from that if we have to add expensive things for the electrical and plumbing repairs. So next year's a quiet year. As far as the Pono study is concerned, who knows what might pop up, but we need to be prepared for that.
Can I give a little input, Keith?
Go.
This is Judy. Keith and I spoke earlier. We were just talking about the process of once we identify the projects that are currently being put into the queue, and coming up with a systematic process to hire external contractors so that we have something that's accessible for everybody that's on the board to review, and we have time to look at the scope. So having like whoever the available expertise are, like Mikasa, Bluestone, or professional experts or owners that can be consulted about the scope of work, and then put that down in writing so that we know what the work requirements are and what the limitations are, what the access points are, how do we get into the system and not affect rentals, and then release that or request for proposal for that. And then we also talked about the idea of having a Google Doc, which would be able to track all the projects and be able to be updated so that people can all be informed on where things are at in the queue without having to have all these emails back and forth and losing information because it's just too difficult to keep track of it. There's not a timeline thing. It's, we keep one thing and then 3 emails later, something's changed and things get lost in the process. And I think we should try to get at least 3 bids. I'm willing to help out with some of the contractor pursuits and figuring out who's out there in the community and try to build some relationships back. I know the Tides has kind of ebbed and flowed as far as having a bad reputation to work with. To try to recreate a good working relationship with contractors so that they feel attached to our property and want to be part of making it a wonderful place. One of the things that was suggested by a couple owners was maybe we do a trade out too and have the contractors come, if they come from another, community, say they come from Warrenton or some other place that's a little bit farther away, that we work out that they can rent, that they can stay at the rental unit that we have available so that they have a place to stay, and it gives them a little fringe benefit, and it gives them the ability to be attached to the property and get to know the community a little bit. And then I think after we do that, we have the board review the proposals for cost, quality, and performance. And then when appropriate, have whoever the manager is at the time work with whoever the contractor is and set up a check-in